lost everything because of my brother's envy, but I managed to overcome adversity, and now I am unstoppable. These are the kinds of stories I never thought I would experience. All my life, I believed that the people who loved me the most would be the ones who would support me when things got tough. But it turned out that the envy, greed, and ego of those I loved the most ended up destroying everything my father and I had built. My name is Luis. Since I was a little boy, I grew up in a small furniture manufacturing company that my father started. He taught me everything about the business, how to grow a small idea, how to fight when things got tough, and how to be a man of honor. My mother had died when I was very young, and my father was the only one who showed me the value of things. We worked very hard to get the company going, and over time, it became one of the most respected in our city. Growing up, everything seemed to be on track for me. My sister Clara and brother Andres were always around, but as the years went by, something strange started to happen. They wanted more. They knew that one day the company was going to be mine, that everything my father had done would be to secure a future for me. But what I didn't count on was that my brother and sister would start to want my place. I never imagined that they would be capable of such a low thing. My father died suddenly when he was 60 years old. It was a very hard blow, the worst of all, but I promised myself that I would continue his legacy and that I would not let his effort be lost. The last thing he said to me was, "Son, keep the family together. It is the most important thing you have." I, with all the pain in the world, tried to do my best to continue. However, problems began to become inevitable. My brother Andres, the youngest, was always a man of quick and ambitious ideas, but he lacked the humility that my father instilled in me. He always thought that I was not qualified to run the business, that his mind was more brilliant, and that I was too attached to my father's legacy. My sister Clara, on the other hand, began to feel that she had as much right as I to lead, despite not having been as involved in the company. They began to murmur among themselves, and tensions rose. One night after a family meeting, I realized something was wrong. I received a call from a lawyer for the company. "Luis, we need to talk. There's something you need to know," he said. As I sat in the office, my heart was pounding. Apparently, my own brothers had manipulated documents, created fake agreements, and, in a clever move, stripped me of my company. Everything we had built had slipped through their fingers, and I was left out in the cold. I remember perfectly how I felt. It was as if the earth had opened up beneath my feet. Everything I had done, all the effort, crumbled in a matter of days. The worst of all was not only that they had taken away what my father had left me, but they had done it with a smile on their faces. My own brothers, those I had trusted blindly, had betrayed me. But at that moment, something inside me changed. I wasn't going to sit back and do nothing. I had learned too much from my father, and even though they had left me with nothing, I knew I could rebuild my life. No money, no connections, but with the determination of someone who has hit rock bottom and isn't going to give up. All I had was my intelligence, my knowledge, and a deep desire to prove to them that I was above their betrayal. So I started from scratch. I had no other choice. I sold the little I had left of value, a couple of my father's mementos and some personal things, and used that money to invest in the only thing I knew how to do, furniture. I started making my own designs and selling them to small local shops. It was hard, but my passion for what I did kept me focused. I had nothing else, but every piece I created was a reminder of what I had lost and what I could still achieve. As time went on, my small business grew, not at the speed it had grown before, but I was moving forward. Every day, I was faced with bigger challenges, but I never gave up. I knew that my skill and work ethic would eventually take me far. Word of mouth helped me more than I ever imagined. People began to trust me, my designs, and the effort I put into each piece of furniture I created. With each passing day, I saw my efforts begin to bear fruit. At first, the days were long, the nights even lonelier. Sometimes, I would wake up at 3 a.m. with my hands numb from work, my head full of doubts, but with a determination so strong that I couldn't give up. I began hiring people to help me, and although I couldn't offer them much money, they saw what I saw, the potential for something big. My little shop began to grow, and somehow, I was finding peace again, a peace that my brothers, in their desperate jealousy, didn't seem to understand. At first, what hurt me the most was the attitude of my own friends. Some, without saying it openly, treated me as if I was wasting my time. "Why don't you give up, Luis? What you have now is just a small workshop. Are you really going to keep fighting for something that no longer makes sense?" The people who had been close to me, who had seen my effort and my sacrifices, did not understand why I persisted. They could not see what I saw, an opportunity to prove that I had not only inherited my father's business, but that I could do it better, much better, without my brother's betrayal. My friends told me I was a fool, knew that my brother Andres and my sister Clara already owned the company, that it was clear that they had the last word, that I had already lost. But something inside me told me that it wasn't the end. My heart was still beating as hard as when my father taught me to build furniture. I wasn't going to let his lies bring me down. The worst came when, after several months of hard work, my brothers began to publicly mock me. They knew that my small company was growing, and instead of respecting my efforts, they dedicated themselves to minimizing what I was achieving. Clara, my sister, began to speak badly about me to everyone she knew, claiming that I did not have the capacity to manage a larger company, that my products were inferior, that my work was only a cheap copy of what it once was. I remember the day when, during a family gathering, Andres, my brother, with his usual arrogance, told me, "You will never be anything more than a failed attempt, Luis. You will see. We are already where we want to be, and you, no matter how hard you try, will never be able to catch up with us." Those words hurt me more than anything else, not just because they came from my own brother, but because it made me think that maybe I was destined to fail. But you know what? It was that very night that I decided that I would never let their lies rule me again. Something changed in me. I wasn't going to be the loser they thought they had made me into. I started doing more than just selling furniture. I started expanding my line, innovating, looking for ways to differentiate myself, to create pieces that no one else had. I talked to architects, interior designers, looking for collaborations with other small businesses. I refused to stay in my comfort zone. The memories of my father, of his passion for what he did, were my fuel. I started gaining notoriety, not for the money, but for the quality of what I was offering. At first, it was just a handful of supportive customers, but little by little, more and more people started to see what I was building. Comments that were once mocking turned into silent respect. People started talking about me, and my little workshop became recognized as a place where the passion for handwork was felt in every corner. I wasn't just selling furniture. I was selling a piece of me, a piece of what my life had been like. That's what people bought. My brothers, seeing the growth I was having, became more furious. They tried to sabotage me in many ways, bad-mouthing me in the industry, manipulating clients into not buying from me, slandering my name. They couldn't stand that someone they considered inferior was gaining respect, and people began to listen, to see through their lies. What they didn't know was that the more they tried to bring me down, the stronger I became. Each attack only motivated me more. Each word of contempt was a reminder of what I had been and what I could become. The hard work I was putting in began to pay off. My clients began to come back and recommend me to others. Something that at first seemed impossible began to become a reality. I no longer had just a shop. I had a business that was growing. Sure, it was nowhere near what my father's company had been, but I no longer cared about that. Now, my priority was to get back on my feet, to show my brothers that I didn't need them or their jealousy to succeed. One day, after working for 16 hours straight, I got a message. It was from a well-known architect in the sector. He had heard me through the voice of his clients, those who recommended me for the quality of my product. He asked me for a meeting to discuss a possible collaboration. It was the opportunity one had been waiting for. Without hesitation, I accepted, and the next day I was in his office. When I arrived, I saw a place full of large projects, luxurious designs, and everything seemed so far from my reality. But at the same time, I felt something inside me. I knew I could be a part of it. During the meeting, the architect told me something that left me speechless. "Luis, there is something special about your designs. There is a soul in what you do that others don't have. I want you on this project. I want you to be the one in charge of all the custom furniture." My eyes lit up. This was the job that could put me on the map. A contract with this architect meant being able to scale my business in ways I never imagined. What I didn't expect, however, was that during that very meeting, the architect mentioned my brothers to me. It turns out that my brothers had tried to get in touch with him before, hoping to get the same job. They tried to belittle my name, badmouth my shop, convinced that they could crush me and take it all for themselves. But here I was, sitting in front of him, listening to his words, with a smile on my face. And best of all, he chose me. Somehow, my brothers began to realize that everything they had done to try to destroy me had failed. They, with all the money and resources they had, could not destroy the trust one had been building little by little, piece by piece, client by client. People trusted me, not their lies. My brothers didn't take it well. Andres at first called me to ask for a meeting. He had been so upset that someone with nothing could have what he thought only he deserved. He accused me of stealing their business, of betraying my father's memory. Clara, on the other hand, didn't even try to hide her frustration. "We knew it, Luis. We knew you were going to do well, but not like this. We thought you were a fool. We thought you were going to fail, but what we didn't understand is that people follow those who have something real to offer, not those who are just imitators. Now you've become a threat, and I don't know if I like it," she told me. Everything they had said to me, all their hurtful words, pierced me like a sword, but this time they didn't strike me down. I realized that my real enemy wasn't Andres or Clara. It was the doubt they had planted in me when they told me I would never amount to anything without them. They had tried to make me feel small, but in reality, they were only projecting their own fears and insecurity. One day, while all this was going on, one of my old clients, a lady who had bought some furniture through my workshop, called me. She told me she wanted to help me. "Luis, I have contacts. I have the relationships to open doors for you in the international market. And what I like most is that you are not looking to make a quick buck. You are looking to create something that will last." That day, something clicked inside me. I didn't just want to excel locally. I wanted to be big. I wanted to expand my business beyond what my brothers ever imagined. And so a new stage in my life began. The first international collaboration came, and with it, more recognition. What was once a small workshop in a forgotten corner of the city was now a household name. The phone never stopped ringing, and every time I had to turn down a project due to lack of time, I felt closer and closer to what I had dreamed of. My brothers started following me on social media, watching me from afar. They sent me messages, trying to show goodwill, but it was too late. I didn't need them anymore. As my business grew, things began to change in surprising ways. Every satisfied customer became a small step towards rebuilding what had once been mine, and best of all, without having to depend on anyone. But the memories of everything I had been through, of all the times I felt less than, of all the humiliation I had received from my own siblings, were still there. Every time I looked at the messages of support from my customers, every time I saw my workshop fill up with international orders, I felt a mix of anger and pride. Anger at what they put me through, but pride in knowing that I had achieved the unthinkable, no matter the obstacles. One day, after one of my meetings with an important client, I decided to give myself a break. I went to a small cafe in the city, a place I used to frequent when I had nothing. When I walked in, the atmosphere was relaxed, with soft music playing in the background. I ordered a coffee and sat by the window. As I watched the hustle and bustle of the street, I felt something in my chest, as if everything I had fought to achieve, everything I had overcome, had led me to that exact moment. Sometimes life throws you into the abyss only for you to find your true strength in the fall. It wasn't long before I was recognized. An older man approached my table with a smile he couldn't hide. "Luis, right? I've seen you on the network. What a great job you're doing. Everyone is talking about you. I congratulate you, seriously." That conversation was brief, but it left me with a strange feeling in my heart. At that moment, I understood how far I had come, not only professionally, but as a person. My life had taken a 180-degree turn, and people no longer saw me as the younger brother, the one who was worthless, the one who was always below everyone. Now, they saw me as someone with strength, someone who did not let himself be dragged down by betrayal, envy, or evil. The following week, I got a text from Clara. To be honest, I didn't want to read it, but something compelled me to. "Luis, I want to talk to you. I've been thinking a lot about what happened, and I think I need to apologize, not just for what I did, but for how I treated you. I thought you were never going to amount to anything, but I was wrong. I admire you, and I'm deeply sorry for what we did. I hope that one day you can forgive us." I couldn't help but smile a little as I read their words, not because I thought I needed their forgiveness, but because at that moment I understood something fundamental. Forgiveness wasn't for them, it was for me. I was the one who had to free myself from the weight of envy, of rage, of everything that had hurt me. I couldn't carry that bitterness if I wanted to continue growing, but I was also aware that things would never be the same again. The damage had already been done. I couldn't just forget how I was treated, how I was abandoned at the most difficult time of my life. What had happened couldn't be erased, but I could decide what to do with the future. Time passed, and my business not only held up, but expanded even further. As I grew, I felt like every step brought me closer to what I always dreamed of. It was no longer just about revenge or proving something to my brother. It was about making everything I always imagined a reality as I sat in my father's workshop, watching him work, dreaming of being being like him one day. Now, I wasn't just like him. I was surpassing everything he had ever accomplished, and I was doing it in a unique way. The phone rang one afternoon, interrupting my thoughts. It was the architect who had worked with me months before. "Luis, I'm calling about something important. I want you to take charge of all the custom furniture for a large project. The contract is yours if you choose to accept it. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity." That call was the push I needed to take an even bigger leap. My life was no longer the same. I was now the master of my own destiny. My workshop became a renowned company, and my brothers, well, they continued to live in the shadow of their own arrogance. Because even though they tried to destroy me, they didn't succeed. Life taught me something important. Never underestimate the strength of someone who has nothing to lose, but everything to gain. As the months went by, my company's business continued to grow by leaps and bounds. My days were filled with meetings with important clients, and the feeling of success was increasingly palpable. My phone never stopped ringing, and requests for new projects kept coming. First, it seemed incredible to me. How had I gotten to this point after everything I had been through? I had been on the verge of despair, but today I was at the head of a company with a bright future. What struck me most was not the money, nor the million-dollar contracts, but the way people began to see me. The respect that I had previously lacked was now given to me in abundance. I had been underestimated, but instead of being brought down, it had driven me to keep fighting. Now, I saw that everything I had done had been worth it, but not everything was so simple. There was something in my heart that I couldn't let go of, something that kept tormenting me, and that was my relationship with my brother. Even though I was achieving a lot, the weight of what they had done to me was still there, like a shadow that didn't let me be completely happy. One day, my phone vibrated. It was a message from Clara, my sister. "Luis, please, we need to talk. I feel terrible about what happened. I want us to sit down and talk, not as brothers and sister, but as adults. What we did was horrible, and I am sorry. I am sorry I failed you." First, I didn't know what to say. It had been so long since they betrayed me, since they left me on the street, that I had learned to live without them. I had built my life on my own effort, but something in my heart told me that maybe it was time to close that chapter. Maybe it was time to forgive, but only if they proved that they really deserved it. I accepted the invitation to meet. On the day of the meeting, I arrived at the restaurant nervously. The conversation was about to happen, and I didn't know how to react. When I saw Clara walk in, I realized that time hadn't changed at all. She was still the same, but I was no longer the same. I had transformed into someone who no longer depended on anyone to be happy. At least that's what I thought. "Luis, I know this won't solve everything, but I want you to know that I am truly sorry. I, along with Ricardo, hurt you a lot, and I realize now how wrong we were. We treated you as if you were less than us, and you were never less than any of us. We failed you, and I am here to ask for your forgiveness," Clara said with a broken voice. Hearing her words made me feel something I hadn't experienced in a long time: vulnerability, but also a great satisfaction in knowing that I had done the right thing by following my path and not letting myself be destroyed. "Clara, what you did to me hurt me more than you can imagine, but what hurts me the most is that you never believed in me. No one did, but you know what? I did it. I did it all without you, and now I'm stronger than before. I don't want or need you to ask me for forgiveness, because I forgave you a long time ago. What I did it for me, not for you. And now, I'm here for me, not for anyone else," I answered with a calmness I hadn't felt in a long time. Clara looked me in the eyes, a mix of guilt and relief. She knew her words couldn't erase all the hurt, but at least she had done the right thing by admitting it. Then my brother Ricardo called me. He wanted to talk to me. His tone was more serious than usual. I knew that what he was going to tell me was not something simple, but I never imagined what came next. "Luis, I've been thinking a lot. I failed you. Sometimes we get carried away by greed, by envy, but I'm tired of living with that. What we did it for money, for control. But after seeing you grow and achieve all this without our help, I realize how wrong I was. And although I know I can't erase the damage, I want you to know that I'm willing to fix my mistakes," Ricardo told me. Although his words weren't enough to erase all the damage they had done to me, I understood that he was also looking for a form of redemption. However, I wasn't about to turn back. I was already over all that, and I wasn't going to let his regret make me doubt what I had accomplished. I was on another level now. My company continued to grow. Every day brought new challenges, but also new satisfaction. I no longer cared if my my brothers tried to get back into my life. My life no longer depended on them. The company I had created was mine, and most importantly, I had done everything without expecting anyone to give me anything. The months passed, and my business continued to thrive. Not only had I managed to rebuild my life, but I had also become a role model for other entrepreneurs who, like me, thought they would never make it. My story of resilience became something much bigger than I ever imagined. People now looked at me with respect, and my name began to ring a bell in important business circles. My siblings, Clara and Ricardo, kept trying to get close to me. Clara, more often than Ricardo, insisted that we meet. At each meeting, I saw in her eyes the desperation of wanting to redeem herself, but something in me had changed. I was no longer the man who had been willing to forgive them for their betrayal. Now, I was someone who had found his own path, and I couldn't let those who had turned their backs on me sneak back into my life. The last time we met, Clara looked at me intently, with a mixture of sadness and resignation. "Luis, I know there is no turning back now, but I want you to know that I deeply admire you. I never thought you would go this far. And even though our differences won't allow us to be a family again, I want to thank you for everything you taught me. What you did changed my life. I wish you the best," she said. At that moment, something inside me clicked. I remembered the person I used to be, the one who wished everything was different, who wanted her family back. But I also remembered everything I had had to sacrifice to get here. And I realized that I didn't have to keep waiting for them to change or apologize. My life didn't belong to them anymore. With a calm smile, I replied, "Clara, I have forgiven you a long time ago. But what all of this has taught me most is that true success does not come from the people around you, but from the peace you find within yourself. And I have already found it. I wish you the best, too, but my life has already moved on without you." Ricardo never dared confront me again. He knew there was nothing he could say to change my mind, and that, in a way, gave me a sense of closure. I had reached a point where the only thing that mattered was what I had built with my own hand. The company continued to grow, and the years passed. Despite everything, I remained true to my principle. I had put revenge and resentment aside. I knew that the most important thing was not money or power, but the satisfaction of knowing that, no matter what life had thrown at me, I had always remained firm in my conviction. And the best part of it all, in the end, was that it hadn't just been a personal triumph. It had transformed the lives of many. My story inspired others to not give up, to keep fighting for what they believe in, no matter what the world tells them. And that was the real victory.